There he is. Yeah, I mean, it's the other side of the world, and it's just amazing that we are able to do this
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
between India and Canada. It's a huge distance.
Professor R.B. Singh, sir, join right now.
Okay. Namaste, sir.
Namaste,
Namaskar,
Professor.
Sir,
namaskar,
namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
namaskar, 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 namaskar.
Sir, now start. Can I start?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Let's.
Uh, Distinguished professors, warm wishes to all of you. As a organizing secretary of IU India International Conference 2020, I'm delighted to welcome you all, respected speaker, Honorable Professor R.B. Singh sir, Secretary General, Treasurer, IU. Dr. Romila Verma, University of Toronto, MS Hilary Van Welter from Canada, CO Essentia, Dr. Tejbir Singh Rana, Associate Professor of Delhi Universities, and Mr. Harnan Benguria, PhD student, University of Toronto, are warmly welcome to all of you. Please join us and start for panel discussions on the water issues. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pavarshali. Thank you for that warm welcome. Namaste to all of you, and hello from Canada. I am so honored and delighted to be here. So I would want to welcome first everybody for on this platform, and also wanted to thank you, the International Geographical Union, for hosting this event, and Department of Geography, Faculty of Earth Science, Mohanlal Sukhadia University based in Udaipur. Thank you so much for hosting this event. And for this morning for us here in Canada, we are going to talk about water essence of survival, conversations about its revolutionary possibilities. So we are all gathered here to muse, to reflect about what water means to us, why we are calling it the present times as water crisis period. So again, thank you for joining us, and we are hoping to interact with you. And so keep the question and answer session
Sure.
open, and we will get you towards the end of the presentations and conversations, actually. So feel free to type in your questions.
Yes.
And this will ensure a smooth flow of conversation. Each speaker will be presenting their ideas. And then as we go through this interesting workshop, Ms. Hilary Van Welter is going to run a short workshop for us. It's amazing. So I hope you can join us and stay with us for that long. And now it's my honor and pleasure to introduce very briefly all the speakers. Dr. R.B. Singh is my guide and mentor. He has been my advisor, so I have known him since a long time. And he doesn't need any introduction. He is an entity within himself. He is a retired professor from Delhi School of Economics, Department of Geography, Delhi University. And a lot of expertise. He has worked from water to biodiversity to climate change, to name just a few. His range is phenomenal. And right now he is the Secretary General and Treasurer for International Geographical Union. So welcome, sir. And then we have Dr. Tejbir Singh Rana, Associate Professor, Shivaji College, Delhi University. And I know him since a long time as well. He is an explorer at heart, and his love of geography knows no bounds. His expertise is, as he was telling me, on environment and developmental crisis. And he has worked on some water projects in Rajasthan, actually. So that's Dr. Rana. And Mr. Hernan Albianchi Benguria. It's another pleasure and honor to know you, Hernan. You are a PhD student in the Department of Geography and Planning at University of Toronto. And you have a range of experience and qualifications. He is an architect and master's degree in urban development from the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile, from Chile. And he is a master in design studies in urbanism, landscape, and ecology from the Harvard Graduate School of Design. So a range of qualifications and just range of work that he does brings his landscape architecture lens into all of this. And in Canada, he has worked extensively. His work included the Canadian Extraction exhibition at the 2018 Venice Architecture Biennale. So that's him. And Hilary Van Welter, another of my friend, philosopher and guide and mentor. Hilary, you are the CEO of Essentia, and it is a place for exploration, experimentation, and enterprise. So she brings a completely different lens to the water conversation. And her specialty lies in exploring new landscapes and frontiers, uncovering uncharted territory. And that's what I love about you. It's something, again, very unique lens. And you unleash hidden potential as a person who thrives at the intersections of disciplines. So very multidisciplinary. She can juggle all kinds of hats. And she also undertakes breakthrough work through her designs and leadership of projects that weave together distinctly different perspective and knowledge. Hilary blends healing and strategy to transform intergenerational trauma into imaginative social, economic, and environmental well-being. So she covers the whole range. So now I am going to quickly introduce and give you a context of what this conversation is all about. I'm going to share my screen with you, just few slides I wanted to show. Bhavarshaji, I can share my screen with you guys, right? Yeah, I can, okay. I hope it's visible, you guys can see this.
It visible.
It's visible. Okay,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to introduce myself as well. I am Dr. Romila Verma. I am an instructor at the School of the Environment and Department of Geography and Planning at University of Toronto. I'm also founder of Water Speaks, through which we just released a documentary called Water Be Damned this year. It's about the water crisis in the Punjab area and how we can actually find solutions, creative solutions. And also I'm a founding partner of Trans-Africa Pipeline. We are trying to bring solutions in the Sahel region of Africa through Trans-Africa Pipeline, or TAP. So with that introduction, I would like to provide you with some context about why we are here. Why are we talking about water? So the context is the United Nations has actually allocated, just for basic human survival, 5 liters of water per person per day. Everybody needs that for survival. But if you include daily requirement for human life, so that includes survival, sanitation, bathing, cooking needs, etc. United Nations deems 50 liters per person per day as the basic right for every human being, basic access to fresh water. And we do have, our Earth is called Blue Planet. We do have that much of water, but as geographers, you know, it's unevenly distributed. So what I'm going to do is list these 7 challenges that we have identified, the global freshwater challenges, just kind of looking uniquely towards water. We have 7 challenges lying in front of us. So number 1 is supply limitations. And you will see here, this is the poster child of water crisis, the Aral Sea, 1970s to at present time, what it looks like now. It's almost disappeared right in front of our eyes. So we do have supply limitations. We have finite sources of water, and not many people understand that the water is being recycled, it's rechanneled, it's stored and moves through our planetary system, and we have just finite amount. But we are faced with increasing demand. So it's again, classic case of supply and demand. demand in all sectors, agriculture, municipal, industries, energy. So all these demands put a huge pressure further on limited supply. Number three is climate change impacts. And as geographers, we know where we are standing at the cusp of this huge change that we are going to face in the coming decades. Number four is high capital investment. So water is a very capitally intense entity. The infrastructure is highly capital intensive. And because most of the countries around the world, water is a public entity, it's publicly funded. Not many countries have that extra cash or finances to deal with the water issues. So that means public-private partnership and is immense. And I know past few weeks, every water manager's fear has realized, because now water is being publicly traded in the New York Stock Exchange. Number five is pollution and contamination, increasing every day. We have microplastics, we have endocrine disrupting chemicals in our water system. And to treat them, it's again expensive, and a lot of times we don't know how to treat these pollutants and contaminants. Number six is inequity. And I want to emphasize here, the list that I'm telling you, it's in no particular order. I'm just listing, and they are equally important. Inequity. More than 1 billion do not have access to sanitation. Close to 900 million do not have access to safe, clean drinking water. So that puts a lot of pressure on public health system, and 2.5 million people dying every year. It is unacceptable in this day and age. And then number seven, a very important part, is lack of regeneration for ecosystem provisioning. Just for the sake of water itself, we are not letting the water system regenerate just for the sake of its survival, and not just human survival. There are other things that are dependent on this life force. So these are the 7 global freshwater challenges that we have seen. And I want to say that we can look at this crisis, why it happened and what are the solutions, through 4-pillar approach to water sustainability. We don't, unless we have these 4 pillars all at equal strength, equal size, supporting this water tank, the water tank is going to collapse. And that's what is happening. So the 4 pillars are to understand the spirituality and culture of water, the connectivity of water, science and technology, demand, supply and finance, management and governance. So these 4 pillars, they have to stand firm and tall, and they have to talk to each other. They have to interact with each other. That's when we ensure a proper flow of water. So this is just a context that I'm providing you with as we move forward with our conversation. I wanted to show you 2 very short clips. One is our documentary in which Dr. Rana was involved as well. He was part of the research group, and he is actually interviewed in the documentary. But I just wanted to show you this short clip on our effort to talk about water. And the other clip is about Trans-Africa Pipeline. So let's watch a clip of the documentary, Water Be Damned.
The first thing is that we are so disconnected from the spirituality and philosophy, the ethical aspect of water, which is actually quite a paradox, because we need water. Water is life. It sustains everything on this planet, and that's why it's a blue planet. Yet at the same time, the way we treat water, we not only disregard it, I feel that sometimes we don't even see water. It's kind of an invisible thing. We take it for granted.
So with this, I have concluded my thoughts about water. I would now would like to invite Dr. R.B. Singh to share some thoughts about water with us.
Thank you, Dr. Romila ji. My other colleagues, panelists, Dr. Tejbir Singh ji, CEO Hilary ji, our colleagues from Chile, and dear participants. I would like to focus on water policy, actually need for pragmatic national water policy in our country. We had policy, but it is now outdated. And few important points I would like to raise why we need to change our policy. First, Sustainable Development Goals address water security, which aims to ensure water and sanitation for all. National Rural Drinking Water Program and Accelerated Urban Water Supply Program aim to provide universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by 2030. Then another important program came into existence, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Clean India Mission 2014, aims to ensure access to sanitation facility and safe and adequate water supply to every person. And then the Sendai Framework of Disaster Risk Reduction 2015. And one important statistics I would like to put before you, that India has almost 18% of the human population, but 2.4% of the geographical area. And if you consider the water, so only 4% of the world fresh water resources we have. So that is why one can see that how water is very important for our country, preservation, conservation, particularly for agriculture, industry, various other ecosystem services demand. But one can see and you can guess that how we have the diversity in rainfall pattern. If you go to the eastern side, we have more than 2,500 millimeter rainfall. But if you go to the extreme Rajasthan, I think it is less than 100 millimeter. So in between also the contrast situation. We have different type of ecosystem in our country. Northern Himalayan mountain, where we have the largely, it is considered the tallest water tower of the world. But if you go to the two coast of peninsula with rich biodiversity, estuaries, and many, desalinization plants are being, established in the area. We have diverse humid to arid climate, varied rainfall and related production system. Rising urban ecosystem, demand a lot of, the water, and we have a lot of inequality already. 7 important challenges identified by Dr. Romila ji. And you see, if you consider in some locality the 25 or 3 liters per capita, and some places it is maybe the 300 liters per capita supply. So, and if you will see the per capita water availability, it is declining. In 1951, we had the 5,177 meter cubic year. Now it came to almost 1,820, and even less. So, 54% of India faces high to extremely water stress. And our earlier policy was 2012 when, climate change phenomena was not integrated. Swachh Ganga, Ganga program is not so much focus given. Water rage program not very much given. So that is why we need to, change our policy. And we have almost 15 river basins, but these river basins are not having the Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra, where we have the enough adequate water supply. But if you go to the many other, Narmada, Tapti, Kaveri area, we have lot of problems and fighting for water. Apart from that, the poor water quality, that is a very important. And more than 100 million people live in the area of poor water quality. So this is a very important challenge for us. Then, we have the different type of extreme events, 50% land under cultivation prone to drought, 5% land to flood, 8% land to cyclone. Most of the lakes are contaminated and rivers are polluted. Groundwater extraction is another important issue, and you see in canal irrigated area, groundwater table is going up, and in tubal irrigated area, it is going down. So different type of the situation. We have many water risk region. I can tell you, starting from Karnataka, particularly in the dry region, Gujarat, even in rural Delhi, we get the time to time water crisis in the region. Marathwada region, that is due to the drought, Bundelkhand, these are some of the hottest spots, problem. Even Pune city in Maharashtra, they are the area where we are facing the problem. Largely, I identify important issues like deforestation and degradation of environment, poor water quality resulting from insufficient and delayed investment in water treatment facility, pollution, greenhouse gas, global warming, and less snowfall and more glacier retreat due to the global warming, and wasteful use of water. Wastage of pipe water, supply of water, that is a great also concern in the drinking water. Lot of, if you see our rivers are being polluted, passing through the very intensive agricultural area of our country, and people use the pesticides and all, and after the monsoon, all the waste and insecticides and the pesticide all coming to the field, and posing a very severe threat. Why this is very important? Because we also, a lot of people, very substantial proportion of the people, they drink river water also. They take bath. And so the water quality, that is a very, very important. Water contamination through the landfill sites is another important issue in surrounding to Delhi or the big mega cities. That is a very, very important. Flood vulnerability is an annual ordeal in whole northern India, and not only human health, but biodiversity and loss all. So we have different dimensions of water security, reduced dependency on erotic and uncertain monsoon, micro irrigation, agricultural products, industrial solution, in underground water. These are some of the important area I think we have to focus. You know, interlinking of rivers already, you might be knowing, and Bajpayee government, initiated this program, but, it requires a lot of investment, lot of impact on the biodiversity. So that is why we could not start. But what I would like to propose here, that we can do we start the interlinking of rivers within states, because, then there will be no problem. Then, after because every state has a pocket of drought and pocket of flood prone areas. So very important to interlink. Then we can do also like on the pattern of Ken-Betwa link, we can also link the one river to the surrounding states. And we have a lot of benefit of interlinking of water. Finally, I would like to tell you that many initiatives taken, particularly the integrated watershed management program, that is being very helpful, particularly in drought-prone area, desert development program, integrated watershed development program, particularly for soil and water conservation. Many culture-oriented, already culture and spirituality, Rumiraji mentioned, and we have the several such type of experience like Rajasthan, Tarun Bharat Sangh, Johats, how people organize themselves and digging the traditional ponds, and they created the water potential, and now they are getting a lot of substantial water, and they are using for irrigation, drinking purposes. Migration now halted. Sukhmajri experience of Haryana, where people organize themselves, and they now that village Sukhmajri has everything, because cooperation of the people and organization. Rat irrigation cooperatives, these are the Maharashtra Pani Panchayat, these are the important culture-based organization. So two more things I would like to tell. We need innovative solution, water charging mechanism of farmers, rooftop water harvesting, water zero water use, desalinization of seawater, brackish water, artificial recharge of underground water, addressing evaporation loss and percolation loss, addressing water security indicators. And another last more important thing I would like to say, that application of nano technology, particularly nano absorbents, can eliminate the particulates contaminated water. And many places, particularly in the European country or American OECD country, they are using the nano absorbents, particularly for the toxic organic solution, and they can convert into the non-toxic bioproducts through nano catalyst and redox active nanoparticles. This is a very, very important, particularly many pollution related with the textile, paper and pulp. Another one important establishment I visited in Norway, no gymes. No gymes, that is, they have a project also in many parts of the world and India also, and they use such type of technology, effluent treatment. That is a very, very important. So thank you, Dr. Romilaji. I would like to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This was amazing. You covered the whole range of problems, solutions, and I just loved your ideas about innovative solutions that we need. Going back to indigenous rainwater harvesting to more innovative technologies like nanotechnologies that we need to talk about. We need to, you talking about interlinking of river system, and so many the solutions that has to be looked at from a more holistic and integrated way. And what you are suggesting that India is moving forward. We need to overhaul our policy system from the last 2012 policy that did not have enough meat into it. It did not have enough bite into it, like climate change impacts and other things that should have included. So we need to make that change on a policy level. So that is a very strong argument. And as I said, policy governance management has to be a very strong pillar if we need to address water crisis. So thank you again so much, sir. And my honor to invite next is Dr. Tejveer Singh Rana to share his thoughts about water crisis.
Namaste. Thank you, Dr. Romilaji, for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas in this panel discussion about the water. In India, in Hindi, there is a proverb, Jal hi jeevan hai, life, water is life. It is the essence for survival, as you have already mentioned in your theme of the paper. But we are exploring the revolutionary possibilities. Since the evolution of humanity, man is utilizing the natural resources. Man is exploiting all the resources, but out of that, water is the one resource which is ruthlessly exploited by the man for its to fulfill its needs and greeds, because water is having a cycle that is called hydrological cycle. This cycle makes water as a resource for commons. It's a resource of commonality. All the resources which are common to all, whether it is a forest land, pasture land, wildlife, flora and fauna, whatever it is common, it is exploited badly. So water is one of them. So because of the commonality or the character of commonality of water, it is under the threat. Its quantum is decreasing, its quality is deteriorating. But I'll highlight my this panel discussion on two themes: how Indian farmers are behaving with the water, particularly the Indian farmers of Northwest India. There are the two sources of water. Basically, one is we have the underground water, second is the surface water. About the underground water, the Northwest India, which is known as the granary of India, which supplied the food grain to India, from where the Green Revolution started. Green Revolution started for wheat cultivation. Wheat require lesser amount of water, but it changed the behavior of the farmer. Farmers shifted from subsistence to commercialized farming. So farmer, those who were growing the wheat, they become commercialized. They started growing wheat in the summer and rainy season. So this area is this kind of, it received less than 50 centimeter rainfall, and the farmer, they are using the groundwater to substantiate the need of the paddy cultivation or the rice cultivation, which is ecologically not suitable to grow in this region because of the commercialized aptitude or the commercial behavior of the farmers. They started growing paddy in the region. They started putting the tube wells, exploiting the groundwater and using the groundwater to the limit that even they are using the they're using a technology called submersible tube wells. Submersible tube wells, I'll say these are the ecological terrorist technology. So this ecological terrorist submersible means, why I am saying, because it exploit, it withdraw even the last drop of the water in the subsoil. At the time of the formation of the earth crust, there was no water. This water accumulated through percolation, through leaching process, and it took millions of years to accumulate in the groundwater. And this one generation got one technology called submersible tubewell, and they are withdrawing the entire water which is accumulated in millions of years. And this, they are behaving like they are the last generation on the earth's surface. So this non-sustainable behavior of the farmer exploiting the groundwater is reducing the carrying capacity of the region. So large number of people, they are out migrating from the region because agriculture is not supporting them because of the complete exploitation of groundwater. Simultaneously, the backwash effect of this green revolution in Rajasthan, also in western Rajasthan, in arid and semi-arid Rajasthan, in Thar desert. I worked in the region. Installation of tubewell is the biggest employment in the region. Large number of youth, they are occupied, engaged in installing the tubewell, extracting the groundwater up to the depth of 100 feet, 200, 300, 400, 500, up to 1000 feet deep. They are extracting the last drop of water in arid region when there is no groundwater. So after this, if we see the satellite image of western Rajasthan, we will find the patches, barren patches. Patches means earlier there was the tube wells, some barren patches are left behind. So groundwater is completely exploited because see, when I was working in Bikaner district, farmers started growing groundnut over there, and they are using sprinklers. Sprinklers are working round the clock over there for them. Simultaneously, in Nagaur district, farmers started growing cotton. Cotton also require a lot of water. In Jodhpur, farmers are growing groundnut and the vegetables and the cotton, and the groundwater table is depleting like anything. They are exploiting the groundwater level where temperature has increased, where TDS, total dissolved salt, also have increased. They are not good for the soil to grow the crops. So soil is, sodacity in the soil is increasing with the water because they are using the water with high TDS quality. So groundwater is, so human behavior is like they are exploiting the last drop of the water. My apart from this backwash effect of green revolution, my second concern about this debate is the depleting non-seasonal rivers, or you can say ephemeral rivers, rain-controlled rivers, or the seasonal rivers. Seasonal rivers are depleting. Rivers, these seasonal rivers have life. They, when in 1 year, in a time of 1 year span, when the water flow for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, in those 30 days, entire groundwater is recharged. Soil moisture has increased, that sustain the entire vegetation of the region, that sustain the entire flora and fauna of the region. If water is not coming even for 10 days in a year, that river is dying. So many rivers in the northern India, they are dying for different reasons. There are certain reasons. One of the reason is that agricultural intensification in the catchment area. Second reason is the depletion of the common land. Common land may be pasture land, range land, forest land, or the open land. So all common land is encroached. Embankments are constructed, so there the natural flow of the water is disturbed. Entire watershed area of the seasonal rivers or rain controlled rivers are disturbed by the human actions for the intensification, due to the intensification of agriculture. So intensification of agriculture disturbed the catchment, and many rivers, one river from originating from Aravali hills coming to Delhi, it is, the river has not received water in the last 30 years. So that is the Sahibi river. One river, Jojri river, which is the tributary of Luni river, which was originated from the Makrana hills in Rajasthan, And because of the marble mines in Makrana, the river lost the course, and the entire habitat, entire population, wildlife, or the nature of agriculture, carrying capacity of the region in the surrounding of the seasonal rivers is disturbed. Birds are out migrated. Wildlife have shifted from the region because the river lost even the water in the 10 or 15 days. So in the process of this conversation with my two personal experiences about the depletion of groundwater and the depletion extinction of the seasonal rivers, uh, I would say in this revolutionary possibilities, as Dr. Romila ji said, it is for revolutionary. There is need to have the to generate the awareness about the water. Basically, we don't have the water budgeting, we don't have the water accounting. We have the sufficient amount of water, but we don't have the water management system because we are not concerned, we are not aware about the conservation of natural resources. So basically our concern is to generate awareness about the conservation. Though human demands are increasing with the increasing population, and I know we are facing the challenges, and I know our next generation will overcome all the challenges and will be winner, and winner is always a content but not complacent. So I hope we will overcome all the challenges about the conservation and will identify the importance of the conservation of water. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ranaji. Your knowledge, awareness, and passion for water is so evident. And three things that our viewers are going to learn today is about the common resource. Water is commonality as a common resource. We all share this resource. The problem with the farming system, the agriculture, the farmers, and their lack of awareness and their withdrawal of groundwater resource is quite alarming. And also we learned about the seasonal and ephemeral rivers, and climate change is going to make it worse. So and you also offered solution, and you gave us hope towards the end, saying that the next generation will do better in terms of understanding where we stand in terms of water situation. So that was a wonderful conversation with you. Thank you again. And now I would invite Hernan Bianchi to take over the platform and discuss and share his ideas. Thank you, Hernan.
Thank you very much, Romila G. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone that is listening in. So here's my presentation. So I'm a third-year PhD student in human geography at UFT. My research is mostly on lithium extraction and the conflicts around it. I'm at an early stage in the research. Just finished my comprehensive exams, and I'm preparing the research proposal. So this is an ongoing process. I will speak about lithium extraction and its relation to Chile's constitution in a context of water extraction and social revolution. The key arguments have to do first with the relation between Chile's constitution and the commodification of water. So how the law, the most important law, legal document of the country has put water to be transacted in a private market. Then the relation between water extraction and conflicts across the country. And there are many different conflicts related to water from north to south of the country, some related to mining, some related to agriculture, some related to power generation. In this case, I'm going to focus more in the case of lithium to have one common thread, and given, of course, the limitations of doing one presentation. I'm going to speak about the structural inequality in Chile in general and how that is related to the October social uprising from last year, 2019, and how there are transformation opportunities that arise in a new constitutional process that has to engage with inequality, extraction, and of course water moving forward. So currently the constitution in Chile was drafted during the dictatorship. Although minerals and water are termed as part of the public domain, the concessions are given to private companies, and water extraction is strictly mediated and transacted in a private market. So although the constitution says that water resources are national assets, they are exclusively transacted between private entities in an open market. This constitution has operated for 40 years. This neoliberal context of water extraction in the constitution is related to extraction, because to extract lithium, you need to extract lots of water, because lithium is located in underground brine and underground water deposits in the Atacama Desert. And for the last few years, over a decade, the area has been eyed by miners and by battery and electric car manufacturers as a key area of supply of lithium for batteries for electric cars. So lithium-ion batteries represent the cradle of today's technological portability, are perceived as the key to a promised electric future of electric cars and clean energy, free of guilt and CO2. Lithium, which is a key battery component, is the lightest metal in the periodic table of elements, and competition is thriving among those who will supply the increasing battery demand for homes and transportation, sparking new industries and speculation over its components, such as aluminum, copper, cobalt, nickel, and lithium. Many of these minerals are extracted in Chile, in Chile's north, in the Atacama Desert. In 2015, 500,000 electric vehicles were sold in the United States. And by 2040, EVs and plug-in hybrids are expected to jump to 35% of global new car sales. That is 40 million electric vehicles sold every year. One big electric car requires 63 kilos of lithium, which is an equivalent to what 10,000 smartphones use. In the last 15 years, battery use has jumped from 5 to 39% of the global lithium market, which was a more evenly shared market between other uses. But the battery share for the lithium market will almost double, reaching 70% by 2025. Battery production will continue to be concentrated in few countries, with particularly China taking the lead over 2/3 of production in the next few years. So with this explosive growth in the transition to electromobility, with explosive growth in battery production and the rolling out of new electric vehicles, demand for lithium will rise to be able to manufacture those batteries. So where is lithium extracted from? The largest lithium mine in the world is in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. This is the most arid desert biome in the world and holds half a century legacy of colonial mineral extraction, where indigenous populations have been its ancestral dwellers, but also its colonial slaves and laborers for centuries. The Atacama Salt Flat is one of the vertices of what is called the lithium triangle, shared between Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, which holds half of the world's lithium reserves. This site contains Chile's only 2 operational lithium mines, where lithium and other minerals are extracted from underground brine aquifers. The mines are operated by lithium giants SQM, owned by Chilean capitals mostly, and Albemarle, which is headquartered in the United States. So this idea of green development and the transition to electromobility is already shaping Chile's mining policy. this has gone to the highest levels of government, with the president announcing a new national policy on lithium. So we basically we see how the clean energy narrative collapses all talks of justice to environmental justice only. The clean energy narrative is basically constrained to the issue of climate change, right? Unfortunately, these discourses also collapse environmental issues into climate-specific environmental issues only. In other words, greenhouse gas emissions reductions trump any other environmental impacts that extraction might have, such as water extraction or the loss of livelihoods. So we turn to how the livelihood dispossession of indigenous communities takes place in the Atacama Salt Flat through water extraction for mining. Out from the Atacama Salt Flats core and from a depth of about 30 meters, one of the lithium mining companies extract 1,700 liters per second in a 1.7% lithium-rich brine, underground brine. The brine is deposited on evaporation pools for around a year to obtain lithium-rich salts. During the extraction process, for each ton of mineral, nearly 2 million liters of water has to evaporate. Overall, more than 200 million liters of water are being extracted from the aquifer every single day to produce lithium. This enters in conflict with the surrounding indigenous communities who have farmed the area for literally thousands of years. The Licalantai People's Council made a presentation 2 years ago to the House of Representatives in November 2018, exposing the overall situation in the Atacama Salt Flat and declaring it a zone of hydric sacrifice. This relates to Naomi Klein's concept of sacrifice zones, where literally whole subsets of humanity are put at risk or dispossessed from the livelihoods for the production of specific, for the extraction of specific minerals or for the production of manufacturers. That same year, in 2018, the Licanantay indigenous communities surrounding the lithium mines in the Atacama Salt Flat filed lawsuits against new lithium extraction contracts signed between the government and lithium mining companies with no consultation. The indigenous and farming communities mobilized protests in the town's main square, where the municipal government is located, erected blockades along the main road in the area and mining companies' industrial facilities access points, and initiated a hunger strike by its 3 indigenous leaders. These socio-environmental conflicts surrounding the issue of water have become more recent across the whole country, aggravated by an increase in water extraction for mining and agro-industry, which is facilitated by the Chilean constitution. And also this is in a context of years of increasing drought episodes, which are probably worsened by climate change. A year later, in October 2019, a massive social uprising in Chile, triggered by an increase in the subway ticket price, was able to put larger issues of systemic inequality on the table and pressured politicians to mobilize change. Only a couple of days after massive protests began in the capital Santiago, the Licanantay organized new blockades where the lithium mining operations are located, as a way of manifesting their goal to defend their water and territories within a context of countrywide mobilization for social justice. So while a whole country is protesting for inequality, the Licanantay are sort of like cranking up the volume to be heard in their demands in terms of lithium extraction and the loss of their livelihoods because of the extraction of water. So protests all over the country lasted for months, and the damage to public infrastructure and private property led the country's president to declare a state of emergency and lockdowns. This situation extended well into the beginnings of 2020 until the pandemic hit the world. So after months of violence between police and protesters, which included accusations towards the administration for violating human rights, the government agreed finally to carry forward a referendum to draft a new constitution and replace the 1980 constitution signed by the country's former dictator. The referendum for a new constitution took place a year later, in October 2020, where the option for a new constitution drafted by popular assembly won by 78%, with the highest number of voters in the country's history in any election. So moving forward, what does this process show us? First of all, we can start drawing the relations between the commodification of water, which was in Chile's constitution, structural inequality, which was what all the country was protesting for, and social unrest, which also gets more specific in protests for certain interests and for certain livelihoods, as we saw in the case of the Licanantay and the lithium mines. So what are the opportunities for resource management and water justice in this new constitutional process, now that the people were able to get the government to sign off on a process for a new constitution? Then how is water justice going to be present in the new constitution? And this makes us think of how can the revolutionary aspect of water be further harnessed in terms of social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hernan. You brought a new perspective of connecting lithium to water. Who would have imagined? That was really, really good. But were you trying to show the PowerPoint? Were you?
Yeah.
It didn't show.
It didn't show. I was trying to interrupt you, but I don't think you caught it.
Oh,
but
and what did you guys see?
We just saw you talking.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, that's okay. These things happen, right? I mean, again, it's the technical glitch, right? So, but I just loved how you described the commodification of water through connecting it to the lithium extraction, the social unrest that it caused, the impact on indigenous communities, and what it led to, the change in constitution in October 22, 2020, the referendum. That we can all learn from, where water justice would be incorporated, right? That is something quite amazing and something to learn from what's happening in Chile, and then with the present, the farmers' agitation happening in India. So what are the different pathways? What are the different solutions that we can talk about? And that ties all the talks, the conversations we have had, ties really, really well with what Hilary Van Welter is going to present now. And for here, I would like to have a motion if we can extend the time a little bit longer, and if you guys can stay and listen to what Hilary has to present and talk about reimagining water. So if we can all stay for a little bit longer, and Hilary will then coordinate the Q&A and try and get the participants involved. So please, in the text box, the chat box, please type in your questions and participate, and any questions you may have. So with that, I invite Hilary Van Welter.
Great, thank you very much. It's been fascinating sitting and listening to so many different sides to water. And water is very difficult to describe. It's often very difficult to even try and develop any kind of narrative about, because it is so complex. But we have an opportunity to try and do that. And listening today to some fabulous conversations around the innovation, water innovation. We also heard about the water commons and what that means in terms of our values. And how when water is in the commons, it doesn't mean some of our values might have meant that we would go grab it as opposed to sharing it. And then water justice. These are all fabulous and important conversations. But where I want to go is our own personal relationship to water. Because until we actually relate to water personally, it's very difficult to understand how we can mobilize the kind of action that we've heard about, which is absolutely necessary, and it's necessary all over the world. So I'm going to try, I am going to try and, could you let me know if my screen is sharing? Poor Hernan. All right, is it sharing?
Yes.
All right, it's sharing, right? Okay. And the whole idea of this conversation was around the revolutionary possibilities. And I think we've certainly heard the call for innovation, the call for value, really understanding our common values, the water justice. But also, one of the things we have to understand when we think about values is that our values are actually, I'm just going to just sort of hang on a second. They're connected to what's sitting underneath us, and they're sitting inside almost like an iceberg. So what we have to do is we have to see what we actually see what we believe, and what do we believe about water? What is it we actually believe about water? Because a lot of the beliefs that we hold are invisible to us, and they're sitting inside us, buried somewhere. And it's only when we have these conflicts about water, when we have a lack of water, where we have issues related to water, that we actually start looking at what do we actually believe about water. And we've heard today how it can be politically polarizing, but it's also highly symbolic. And as Dr. Ramila talked about, its spiritual side. It's also very mythical, and it brings to us a different understanding of ourselves when we allow it to. Water is also unique. We can't create it, nor can we destroy it. The same water that's been on this planet in the cycle, as Dr. Roddy talked about, in terms of the hydrological cycle, has been with us for billions of years. It's the same water that comes back in different forms, in different ways. It's the most amazing substance that we have on this world. And the water cycle itself, the hydrological cycle, is a fascinating, what scientists could not invent that cycle. It is absolutely amazing. It's also, water is a communicator in how well we are doing. And it shows us where we have not been paying attention, where we have allowed our beliefs and our behavior and our actions to take over. But it also shows us how well we can do. And what's a fascinating new study that's being done with coral reefs is that they are now, this is so cool. They're using the sound of coral reefs, active and very healthy coral reefs. They are using that sound and broadcasting it to dead or dying coral reefs. And the sound of the effect of the healthy coral reef is bringing the others back to life. So we're learning some really fascinating things about what's going on under the world, and how well we can do when we innovate. Water is highly productive and hardworking. It's also transformational. Just think about the water, what it's like at the top of a waterfall, silent in many ways, still. And yet the moment it goes over that waterfall, that large dip, it changes. It becomes vapor, it becomes different forms, and then it crashes to the bottom and starts to go on in its merry way again. And so it changed in order to be able to go over the waterfall. Water is very good at focusing us on our divisions and where we're divided. It also is a way of uniting us. And water is us. All those attributes that we just talked about with water are in us. The creativity, the essence of life, as well as the divisions in us, all of it lives inside us, as well as that mythical part. Given we're 70% water. And water's so complex that we decided we would give it a code to better understand it. So we created a series of symbols. Now, the symbols that we created are somewhat different. And why symbols? Because symbols are often seen as a hidden language, not by working with direct reference, but by subtle process or suggestion. Symbols are highly intuitive, and they often invoke a feeling before a thought. And the concept of decoding a symbol is similar to deciphering a hidden mystery. And water is a mystery. There's lots of hidden aspects to it. And when this mystery is reflected in water, it opens up what to us is unknown about water, its very roles and responsibilities. So that's why we created this idea called the Water Rosetta Stone. And the Water Rosetta Stone has these 5 different symbols that represent the different aspects of water: health and beauty, eye of the beholder, wisdom, social identity, life, and historian. And before I give you the explanations of each of these symbols, I'd just like you to take a look at them and see if there's any one that speaks to you, that resonates to you. So just have a look. Just take a moment. You may not know what all these symbols mean, but they may actually talk to you already. Okay, now we're going to look at what each one of the symbols mean. Life symbolizes the value that water provides as a fundamental requirement for life in people and in nature. And what's so fascinating about this is that water shows us how it keeps our own internal metabolism in check. It moves water around us and hydrates our bodies so that we stay healthy. It does exactly the same thing on our planet. So it shows us how a substance inside us can operate as well as outside us to create when we're healthy, an amazing metabolism. And in good part to how water shows the complexity of how it does that quietly, silently, keeping us alive internally and on the planet. Sorry, we're just now trying to see why my thing won't. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to see why it won't go forward. Okay, we'll try over here. It was working before. There. All right, we got that working now. Now, the health and beauty symbol symbolizes water's contribution to health, healing, and well-being. It includes the aesthetic and recreational value that water provides. But one of the funniest things about water and health is that it can only hold an electric charge when it's impure and unstable. Water can't hold an electric charge when it's in its full restorative place. It gives us health. But what it shows us is that when things get messy, when we see the social unrest, when we see the challenges that we're seeing about water's showing us that's where there's an electrical charge. That's where there's a reason to move. That's where there's a reason to get up and start doing things differently, because water shows us it's okay to get messy. And that we can find our way once it starts to find its way through to get healthy again, which shows us that innovation and creativity is found in the messiness. It's found in those places where we need to hold that electrical charge to find ways to come back to health and beauty. The social identity of water symbolizes the contribution water provides to the social relationships and the value of water in forming identity, underpinning beliefs, and generating a sense of belonging, because water has that just phenomenal ability to bring us together, but it also shows us our interdependence in life and how it's about knowing how we're unique, but also how we come together. And it's also fascinating to look at how, when in the Chile experience, how water was a vehicle to bring people together, to talk about an injustice, to find a different way. How the opportunity exists now with the farmers to think about future generations. So it is showing us who we are as people and who we wish to become as people. Just like water, that whole idea of interdependence. And water is a very social entity. You know, it hangs out with each other. It has to bond. Water in its own essence has to bond. It's very social. Water also shows us wisdom, and its personality has a very strong sense of wisdom inside it. It symbolizes water's contribution to our learning, teaching, exploring, a development of research and knowledge. And it's, again, there is, when we were listening earlier, we heard about the amazing opportunity to look at ancient wisdom, ancient practices that are available to us, as well as our modern technology such as nano. But it is in sitting inside our ancient connections that we also can find some really magical opportunities. And water, it rises to the dynamic when through turbulence and chaos. It says, you know what, we can come to the fore again and find new solutions. When it's churning, just think of the energy that you see, you connect to when water churns. When it falls over that waterfall, it's alive. It is bringing attention to something. That's what the issues that we're hearing about are bringing us attention to. Water's showing us where it is we need to act, where it is we can act, where it is that we need to act, and where we need to change. Because it's also a historian, and it is the provider of archaeological, natural, and cultural heritage. It shows us many different aspects of ourselves. It gives us a history, where water was and where it isn't anymore, where water is flowing and where it isn't flowing. These are all fascinating aspects of giving us a sense of history that we wouldn't normally have. And it also has an amazing way of imprinting in us beliefs about the importance of water. Many of us as children have some of our cherished memories come from an experience with water and how we loved it. And again, as adults, as we move into these times of absolute chaos, absolute change, we have an opportunity to remember how much we love water. Because if we don't love it, we won't cherish it. If we don't cherish it, we won't take care of it. If we don't take care of it, that's when our dire circumstances happen. But the historian shows us where the opportunities lie of our past. And at the same time, it's also important to remember our own personal relationships. The eye of the beholder symbolizes our many different personal relationships to water. And often it becomes an amazing inspiration for art, for craft, for photography. If we go into galleries, you'll be probably, there's close to 50% of, at least in North America, of any kind of photography pictures have water in it. And it's not just because it's available everywhere. It's because we're moved by it. We connect to it. We are 70%. And not many may know, but Dr. Ramila Verna is an accomplished artist, and she uses water as one of her major inspirations in her art, because it's one way that she can connect to the mystery of it, to the magic of it, and in all of the work that she does. So again, water holds a very special place for us personally, as well as it also shows us, again, where it is that we need to start focusing our energy and our attention, not through anger, not through dissension, but with a voice of caring, of love, of wanting to see this type of change happen that we know that the water is showing us it needs to have. So again, now think back. What symbol resonates for you, having heard the explanations of the various symbols? And I don't know, do we have the capacity for people to put anything in the chat?
I don't see that in the chat box. So I'm just trying to talk to the host to see, Bhavar Singh ji, is there any way for the audience to put in their thoughts? Because I know I connect to the eye of the beholder. That's my symbol that I connect to. But Hernan, Ranaji, Dr. R.B. Singh, if you guys can start the process. We can ask the larger audience who are watching this to put in their thoughts, either on, I think it's live on Facebook or YouTube.
Just wait.
Okay.
So Hernan, which do any of these speak to you?
So I have a combination between, I was thinking of what I had just spoken of the conflict in the lithium mines, and I wanted to propose a combination between life and social identity. So in this
Yes.
case, how life has been sustained in the desert for so long with farming, and then when the lithium mining is increasing and those livelihoods are at risk, there is an issue of social identity that comes in to sustain that life, and then that social identity and that life somehow has to be embedded in the new constitution, in the constitutional process.
Absolutely. And if you look at how that you could actually physically combine those two symbols to create, because you would have the one with life with the three at the top and one at the bottom, and then you'd have the two on either side. And it would be a really interesting symbol to have those two to demonstrate exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, they
You've
seem
just
to be
made up a new
compatible.
symbol.
Great.
Okay. Who's next? I'm going to call on you. Dr. Dr. Ronnie, did you have one that speaks to you?
Dr. Romila, hello, Dr. Romila?
Yes, Ranaji, you're saying something?
Yeah, yeah. Can I substantiate something? Uh,
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to correlate the water with the carrying capacity of the region, the people, how much they can live, and what is the lifestyle of the people living over there. It is all determined by the water. Like in eastern India, surplus water because of flood, it is again a hazard for the people over there. Surplus water is not ideal for them. In the western India, water deficit, it is also uh, reducing the carrying capacity of the region. So there should be a balance over in India. like uh, Government of India, since independence, since the withdrawal of the British colonialism, we have different. Earlier we had the growth, economic growth, then we had the fast rapid economic growth, then we shifted on the development, then we shifted on the sustainable development. Now we are on the inclusive sustainable development, just to substantiate the maintain the livelihood of the people. And it is all determined by the water availability of water, because all the 17 SDG goals of United Nations, 17 UN SD sustainable development goal, the core of the all the 17 goal, it is controlled by the water. If it is poverty, it is determined by the water. If it is malnutrition, it is by the water. If it is the uh, uh, poor education of the women, it is because of the scarcity of water. Water determine all the development uh, of SDG goals. So it is water is, we have to change the psyche of the people, that this resource has to be conserved, managed, and governed. So as what Dr. Romila in one of the four pillars said, it is governance. We don't have the governance nowhere else in the world. And we have the governance of only 0.1% water, but we need to govern the entire water on the earth's surface. So the quantum is important. Governance, seasonal, regional, sectoral governance is not sufficient. So it is the one in entire collective governance is required, and it's not a regional resource. It is the resource of the globe. Every country, we have to correlate with each other. So south in eastern India, southeast India, large population, the carrying capacity is determined by the water originating from the Tibetan plateau and the Himalayan system. uh, all the rivers, whether it is Huangho river, Yangtze, Kiang, Mekong, Menam, Salween, Irrawaddy, Brahmaputra, Ganga, Indus, all rivers, they originate from the Tibetan plateau and the Himalayan highland. So that is integrated. So originating from one region and giving life to the other region. So we cannot make the budgeting at local level. We have to make the budgeting at the global level also. So this is my submission about the linkage for the development and the poverty and the SDG goal with the water.
And to come back to that, one of the things that's really critical is that the SDG are all very siloed, and they're very individual. And I think that what you just brought up was an important thing, that water flows through all of them. Water connects them all. Water is if we were to look at water as the connector of all the SDGs, then we might have a chance of actually achieving them, because there would be something that would be bringing them together, as opposed to people operating in silos trying to just achieve particular goals. And they're very important goals, but they also need to play with each other and they need to be integrated with each other, because otherwise they will continue to be siloed. But again, I think that just to finish off my part of this is that absolutely we need world governance in terms of looking at water, because it is a planetary resource. It is not an individual resource. In Canada, we have a significant amount of fresh water. Considering our population, we have the opposite issue in Canada compared to India in terms of population versus availability and access to water. But we still have issues in Canada of clean drinking water and access from our Indigenous communities. So we all share some of these issues, as well as coming together for the solutions. The reason why it's important, though, to start thinking about water in different ways is that we won't find the solutions at a global level until we actually come to value it together. And I think that it's coming to value it together and understanding its value not just from what it provides in terms of drinking water, but all the different aspects that it provides. And that's why the symbols were created, was to help us understand and connect to the many facets of water, so that we can have reason to come together at a global level to have the kind of conversations that are so desperately needed. So the one thing that I want to leave with is, if there is magic on this planet, it is contained in water. And I'm a great believer that there is magic available to us, and magic is needed in finding solutions, because it is in that part of us that is mystical and spiritual and magical that some of the most brilliant creativity comes from. And water is certainly part of that. So I'm going to pass it. Should I pass it over to you, Dr. Miller, because you have access to the questions?
Yes, actually, we all do. Thank you again, Hillary. You just tied it all together. It just, the magic of water, the reimagining of water, what we need to do to come together to find solutions, to capture it from a very different lens. And I like that you mentioned the SDGs and how they are siloed, separate. They're not touching each other. And that seems to be our big issue when it comes to management and governance, that the flow is sometimes missing, that we need in order to address any issues. So I just love that the symbol thing that you do, and it resonates with us. It makes water real, right? Because it tells us about our connection to water, and that's what we need, is to channelize that emotion we have with water, the connection with water. And with these symbols, you have made the task a little bit easier. Otherwise, it's very daunting, right? So if you have focused our attention to these 6 symbols and how we connect with it, it could be, connection to one symbol or 2 or all of them. It depends on the individual. Once we find that connection, then we are better to hold it. We are better to manage. And again, manage is such a technical and dry term, but we need to find out what else we can use. So reimagine comes to our mind instead of manage. If we can reimagine water from a global context, then we will not talk about the crisis. We will not talk about inequity and so many other issues. We will move ahead. And with that hope in my mind, with the continuing to talk about, to have these discussions and conversations to make people aware that we need to act, and the time to act is now. We cannot afford to stop and wait till we have reached that tipping. I mean, and some scientists do say we have reached that tipping point, but still we have to continue talking about it. And thank you so much for all of you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, for a whole range of information that we've had. We have to process all of this. But I will open the platform for any questions, and I'm going to go look at it. And if you have anything, any ideas to share about the symbols, we would love to hear from you. And we would, I think we will give out our emails as well for people to connect with us. I know it has been a hectic day for all of the participants. It was a full day, and it's end of the day, evening, so you might not feel like thinking about it. But if you do, then you please give us, shoot an email to us. So let's go to the chat. And I have a question here. How indigenous technology is useful in the time of water crisis? That's a very good question.
Do you want me to take that, given I spoke
All
about...
of us can share, because I have some ideas that I want to share as well. So Hernan, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking of how in the Atacama Desert, the indigenous communities, how they have engaged with water for so long, and how the conflict that is taking place now is actually related to technology itself, right? And I would say the cosmology is very important here, because for them, water is sacred. And within that cosmology, that is what allows them to have a relationship with water that is not extractive and it's not depleting. And that can be seen by the contrast that has happened after the lithium mining started, or any other mining. There has been conflicts with water in the Atacama Desert for mining different kinds of minerals. So I would actually argue, I am not sure if it's much an issue of technology, like what is the technical way in which you extract and use the water, but how that technology is sort of like appropriated, governed, and perceived, right? So it could be any technology. Maybe these communities can use more technologies that have been brought from somewhere else. They combine their own methods with new methods. Things change over time, but that relationship of sacredness with water is what is continuous. That is what doesn't change, right? And regardless of the technology, at the end of the day, that is what allows them to have a healthy relationship with water. Same as also what Dr. Ranaji and Hilary G have been mentioning within their own realms as well.
That's wonderful. Ranaji, you wanted to say something?
Actually, about traditional water conservation technology, I wanted to substantiate with my personal experience with the grassroots farmers. In Rajasthan, there is a district called Nagaur. Nagaur is having a lot of fluoride in the groundwater. And earlier farmers or the local people, they were using the rainwater harvesting technology. Locally, the technology is known as Nadi. So Nadi is a metalled surface which store the entire water of 200 meter or 500 meter, and they store the water in a tank, and that water is used for rest of the year. They harvest the water, rainwater, and they use that same water for rest of the year. So, but after the tube well technology, after the pump set, after the submersible technology, withdrawing the groundwater, and groundwater is full of fluoride, it developed the fluorosis. Fluorosis is a problem. So where backbone make a arc shaped structure. So that's why in local dialect, it is known as Kubad Patti. Kubad Patti means when the backbone is curved. So there is a large population in the region. Since then, they started using the groundwater, leaving the traditional water conservation technology. A backbone has turned. Sometimes some of the people cannot stand straight, they always stay on right angle. So this is the one. Apart from this, the traditional technology, water conservation technology, is so important, because in the within the western Rajasthan, the farmers, those are growing the crops in accordance to the availability of water, or those are growing water which require lesser water, those farmers are economically better. The farmers, those are growing water guzzling crops, their economic status is fluctuating, so they are always disturbed economically and mentally. So I would say traditional water conservation technology is the only solution for the coming generations.
Thank you so much, Ryan. That was amazing. And I want to share quickly again back to Rajasthan. We have had Indus civilization, Indus Valley civilization, right at our doorsteps, that has evolved since 5,000 years. And there's the step wells. I want to talk about that. It's the Rajasthan, Gujarat is dotted by these. I remember taking a trip to Rani Ka Vav outside of Udaipur. Beautiful, not just place for not conservation, but place to utilize water, rainwater, and groundwater. Right, that's how they were designed, and they are beautiful architecture, thousands of years old, that we have, where women used to gather. It became a social, interactive structure as well. Well, not just of supplying of water, but that is one example that I have in mind. And yes, the question is so pertinent. We can use those indigenous technologies and methods of water utilization, and that needs to be part of the conversation and part of the solution.
And part of this is also recognizing that the land itself has its own intelligence, and
Yes.
that it has its, there's this concept called genius of place, that every place has its own genius. It knows what it needs. It knows how to be healthy, and that and indigenous practices listen to that. And
Yes.
indigenous practices are very connected to that. And it's also coming back to the fact this isn't just about science and technology. The deep cultural practices are absolutely important to understand and to work with. And it's especially at the global level, we have to stop just coming together around science and around the technologies. We desperately need to hear and listen to each other with our cultural perspectives and what makes us unique, what makes us different. Water shows us that. And we need to come into these conversations, not to trying to find one common denominator, but to bring the essence of who we are culturally and share that, honor that, celebrate that. And water, again, is the uniter that could help us do that. But not all jump into being the same culture, the same way of thinking, the same practices. Indigenous around the world shows us how important it is to be unique in who we are.
Well said, Hilary. That was quite amazing thought. And again, water as unifier, right? That's
Yes.
what, and also from different cultural perspectives. So that was wonderful. So we have another question. Is desalination method only solution for the water related problems in the future? Is it only? No, it doesn't say only. It can be a solution for water related problems. So I just want to put my thoughts here. It can be one of the solutions, And as I had mentioned, if you had asked me in 1990s, I would have said, no, we still have time to come up with not go towards desalination. It is invasive, it is high energy dependent, and it just takes up a lot of space. But then with technological innovation, with solar energy usage and things like that, it has improved quite a lot. It's not as expensive as it used to be, but we should not consider desalination as the solution to water crisis, because that gives us a false sense of security that, oh, we'll go towards the ocean. But there are so many other headaches involved with desalination. My point is, have a little bit of desalination combined with traditional innovative solutions, combined with so many other solution. It cannot be just one solution for water crisis. It has to be multidisciplinary and a bunch of other ideas. So desalination can be one of the solutions that can actually ease off the pressure from our natural system, give them a breathing space so they can breathe, they can recharge, and they can regenerate, and then combine other aspects of solutions. So if you guys are open to addressing this question, please, that would be very useful.
I just want to say there's a tendency to jump on the latest, right? There's a tendency to say we need the silver bullet, we need the one solution, we need the one way to go. And I think what we're learning in all of this is there is no one way, and that there is a constant need for experimentation, constant need to try new things, constant need to share our learning. And when we look at water in the commons, our learning has to also come into the commons, and it also has to be shared, and it also has to be valued. So again, I think that whenever I hear desalination, it's always given as an example of let's just go do that, as opposed to it could be one of a number of different possibilities, and how we need a range of possibilities, not just the one silver bullet.
And again, you take desalination with a pinch of salt. That's what I should say. But if there are any other questions, please feel free to type. And my apologies, we have gone over the time. This was such an interesting discussion, and with people coming together, we have gone over the time. But yeah.
No, ma'am.
So,
Ma'am, there is no questions right now.
very briefly, just briefly, I would like. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. Please.
Yeah. So, one point I would like to elaborate, and I do agree with Dr. Romila ji that we need the multifunctional strategy. We have to see the water harvesting, we have to see the cultural, traditional practices, desalination, rainfall management, the groundwater management, river water management. All we have to do, I think, multifunctional strategy. And one point regarding the culture, and I would like to take one example from one village, Sukhmajri, in northern part of the Haryana, where nothing was happening. People used to migrate to Chandigarh and big city for jobs. It was a totally barren land. One Dr. Misra joined in the water resource department. He organized all people of all villagers. In the village, few people were landless people, few people also the landowners. They created water potential through the water harvesting ponds, and they provided right on water for every family. Even the landless people got the right on the water. And they decided that 10% of the total income will go to the village fund. And now, due to the water, further development took place. Animal husbandry came into existence. Many landless people involved in the collecting the milk. Even the landless people, they sold the water to landowner. So in this way, I think this created a very good cooperation among the village community. And due to the village, that fund 10%, coming to the village fund, they have everything in that village. And looking this, now if you go to the Chandigarh and surrounding area, you can find the many such type of initiative. So what I would like to say that apart from the water scarcity, water security, water productivity, we have to focus on virtual water and water footprints, green and blue water, climate, water, food, health linkages, and finally, water governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was, you encapsulated everything so well that I don't think I need any conclusion, because you did that absolutely wonderfully said. So with that, I won't take too much of your time, and I just wanted to say my heartfelt thank you for participating in this conversation. And we, as I said, we went through a whole range of topics and ideas and solutions. And I'm hoping you will keep that in your mind and think about it, and let it brew a little bit, and connect to us through emails. We will put it up in the IGU website for you guys to connect with us, so that we can make the strong team of people, global water speakers, and we start this conversation with earnest. So thank you so much to each of you for participating. Namaste and bye.
Ma'am, 1 minute.
Yes.
Ma'am, thank you so much, all dignitaries, especially a lot of thanks, Professor Romila Verma, Hilary Von Welters, Harman Birachi, Associate Professors Tejveer Singh Rana, and Honorable Respected Professor R. Visar, sir. So very good sessions, and thanks for giving your valuable time for the contribute in the discussions in the era of the water crisis. We are more than thankful that you attend our event, and we hope enjoy experience a lot. Looking forward to meeting you all again next time. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Dr. Bhamar. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, respected.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar, sir. Sir,
नमस्कार. बहुत अच्छा आपका पर्सपेक्टिव रहा.
Thank you.